Hey guys, if you're watching this video, you may be in the market for a new vehicle and maybe something a little greener, more environmentally friendly than what you're currently driving. If so, that's great, but there's a lot of complex decisions that you need to consider before you go about buying a new car, and I'm going to help you walk through some of those today. So stick around because this video is for you. Alright everyone, thank you so much again for checking out Saving Green. My name is Josh. If it's your first time watching the channel, Saving Green is an opportunity to discuss lifestyle choices that will hopefully help the environment and save you money at the same time. That's our focus here. So today we're going to talk about buying a new vehicle. Now, when you're buying a new vehicle, there's a lot more to consider these days than just miles per gallon. There's a lot of different types of vehicles out there, and we're going to talk about those in just a moment. So the first step that I want you to ask yourself is, yes, do you really need a new vehicle? Now, if you don't need a new vehicle, you can keep what you currently are driving, of course, pending that the efficiency isn't so bad that it's the equivalent of you stabbing a hole in your gas tank and walking to work. But if it works and it's safe, then it may be better off keeping it a little bit longer. Now, you can justify this by going to your Kelley Blue Book and type in the parameters of your current vehicle, look at the residual value today, and then think about your maintenance and fuel costs. If you're getting diminishing returns, then yeah, it may be time to upgrade. Now, other than buying a new vehicle, there are a lot of other options that may be a good choice for you. Think about a small scooter or an e-bike, carpool, or look at car share programs. Additionally, you could consider taking public transit, whether it's a train, ferry, whatever it may be in your situation. All of those are going to be a lot more environmentally friendly and often less expensive than buying a new vehicle, especially when you factor in fuel costs, insurance, and maintenance. Let's say that you really do need a new vehicle. Well, what type of vehicle is going to be best for you? The next step in this process is really making sure you understand the four major types of vehicles that are available here in the US. Now, there's a fifth type, and that would be either a fuel cell or hydrogen vehicle. Those tend not to be widely available, so I'm not going to consider those at this point in our discussion. But the four major types that we're going to be considering are the standard gasoline, internal combustion, or diesel car, your typical hybrid vehicle, your plug-in hybrid vehicle, and your battery EV or your electric vehicle. Now, the first category are your gasoline-powered vehicles. Yeah, we know about these. They're everywhere, and for good reason. We've really perfected internal combustion in a lot of respects, and the efficiency today, even in a basic non-hybrid, is so much better than it was even just 10 years ago. Now, your typical internal combustion engine is going to require a lot of maintenance because of all the moving parts, and that's because the engines are a little complicated. You have a gas tank, you have a fuel pump. That fuel pump is going to pump gasoline and mix it with air in a carburetor. Then your accelerator pedal is going to release a valve, allowing that gas to air mixture to enter the cylinder. That cylinder is going to be ignited with a spark plug. That's going to be controlled by your battery. And that little explosion that's contained in the cylinder is going to change that chemical energy into mechanical energy or rotational energy, because a piston inside that cylinder is going to feel the force of that explosion and start moving away back and forth. And that will power the drivetrain and ultimately allow the wheels to push you forward. Now, the gaseous exhaust of that reaction is going to be classically water vapor and carbon dioxide, both of which are greenhouse gases. Yes, even water vapor is a very potent greenhouse gas. Now, of course, there are other byproducts as well. There are hydrocarbons and carbon monoxide due to incomplete explosions within that cylinder. And there are going to be other particulates and nitrogen and sulfide compounds that could affect acid rain and things of that nature, as well as respiratory air quality. These are all known entities that we've been dealing with for many, many decades. And of course, you're going to have your oil changes, as well as your typical maintenance costs that are universal across all cars. Now, the second vehicle is a hybrid vehicle. Now, hybrid vehicles, through feats of engineering, have been around for quite some time. Here's a list of some of the hybrid vehicles that are currently available. A lot of these have been around since the mid-1990s, most famously the Toyota Prius, really the first kind of mainstream vehicle to have a hybrid drivetrain. But what these vehicles do is they allow you to capture some of that energy as the vehicle is coming to a stop and store that back into a battery. That battery will in turn drive a small electric motor that will assist the gasoline powered engine to move your vehicle forward. So you get anywhere between a 10 and 50% improvement in the overall miles per gallon efficiency in a lot of these cars, and they are reasonable options. Now, these are a little bit more complicated. They may require a little bit more maintenance because of this system, but they also produce a little bit less wear and tear on your brake pads. So in a lot of respects, it's a trade-off that is worth considering. Now the third type of vehicle is totally different, and that's made famous by Tesla. This is your battery electric vehicle. Now these have been around for quite some time as well. The Nissan Leaf has been around for almost 10 years, and the EV1 from GM was actually the first fully electric vehicle that was available in US markets. Now these cars have a totally different system. They solely have a battery. Now that battery is quite heavy oftentimes, but that battery will drive the electric motor and be completely independent of any gasoline or therefore any gaseous waste products at all. Now the downsides of these electric vehicles is that they are more expensive and they do have limited range, and the time it takes to charge these batteries is not insignificant. Instead of a 5-minute fill up at a gas station, you may require even 30 minutes or over an hour of charging time depending on the efficiency of the charging system of your vehicle. Because the electric motor tends to be a little bit more streamlined than your gasoline components, the maintenance costs are going to be significantly less with an electric vehicle, and you're not going to have to pay for fuel other than the cost to charge your car in electricity alone. The fourth type of vehicle to consider is a cross between a hybrid and electric vehicle. That's the plug-in hybrid. Now plug-ins are becoming a little bit more popular now as battery technology has become more accessible and cars are able to accommodate a larger capacity hybrid battery that actually has enough juice to drive your car solely off battery power alone. But it doesn't have to. It also can use the gasoline motor either in combination or independently of the electric motor to get you moving. Now the advantages of plug-ins is that in short distances, you can, in certain situations, drive solely on battery power alone, just as you would in EV. But for longer distances or high demand situations, you will use both or just the internal combustion engine to get you going. Now, since these have a gas tank, you can go to a gas station and fill up. Some of these hybrid systems will allow you to charge the battery with the gasoline motor, so that's an option as well. And lastly, you can plug these in at night, hence the name plug-in hybrid or PHEV, and that will allow you to, again, regenerate the power needed in your battery and not have to worry about gasoline at all. Now, these have the most complicated circuitry and computer monitoring systems, so maintenance costs could come in quite hefty if you're looking at buying these vehicles. So buying an extended warranty may be something that's prudent if this is on your radar. So now that you have a good idea of all the different types of vehicles that are available in the US today, there are a few other considerations that you should think about. The third thing is whether or not you have charging access. Now this could be through a typical 110 volt plug in your garage, or it may be a charging station either at work or on your way to work. This is important because if you don't have access to a charging station, then the plug-in or electric vehicle options are just simply not going to make sense. Now the larger battery electric vehicles often require a 220 or even higher voltage battery charging system that may require an additional upfront cost if you're going to be charging at home. If you don't have access to an outlet, unfortunately the plug-in options are kind of off the table. Now the fourth thing to consider is local incentives and rebates. Now depending on the size of your battery, you may be eligible for federal rebates. Now those are often based on the kilowatt hour size of the battery. Now certain plug-in vehicles like the Honda Clarity, for example, has a 17 kilowatt hour battery that is large enough to qualify for the full $7,500 federal rebate. So you'll get the complete federal tax credit advantage of an electric vehicle by only paying for a plug-in, which is a lot less expensive most of the time. Now, you may also get other perks like HOV access or high occupancy vehicle access like we have here in Florida, or special privileges on high traffic highways based on whether or not you have a fuel efficient vehicle. So check your local city government website and see if these are options for you. And the last thing to consider is, of course, the purpose of this vehicle. If you have 5 kids and you're driving to school every day, you may not reasonably get by with a Tesla Model 3. It's not going to be enough car for you. So you may need to get a typical hybrid SUV or a station wagon or a minivan. If, however, you're just living by yourself in a city, then downsizing may be perfectly reasonable. If you're a contractor and you're hauling ladders and construction equipment, again, you may need a truck, and not all these vehicles come in every form that may be worthwhile for you. So make sure you really take a step back and think about what you need to get out of this vehicle after you've addressed all of those concerns. So now that we've gone over the 5 steps, let's step back and just think about, in a logical way, how to approach this process so that you're making the right decision. Again, the first question, of course, is do you really need a new car? If you don't, then you want to consider your public transit, You want to keep your old car as long as possible if that makes safety and financial sense. Consider a new bike or a small scooter, or look at carpool or drive share options in your area. If, however, you really need a new vehicle, then the next question, believe it or not, and don't take offense, is whether or not environmental considerations are really that important for you. If they're not, then, well, the world is your oyster, enjoy it while you can, but you can get a new sports car, an SUV, diesel sedan, or a truck. Again, any new vehicle that is a non-hybrid version, yeah, it's going to be a little bit less economical, but if that's really what you want, have at it. If, however, as I imagine many of you are, a little concerned about the environment and want to make an environmentally conscious decision as best as you can, then the next step is, of course, to think about your charging access. If you have a garage with an outlet or a charging station that's accessible, then you have a lot more options. If you don't, then consider getting just a used vehicle or a hybrid. Both of those are going to be a little bit more economical than a new gasoline or diesel vehicle. If, however, you do have the benefit of a charging station accessible, then you want to think about the length of your commute. And again, this is important because of the type of battery system that may be necessary for you. If you can go your whole commute or your whole trip on the battery range of the plug-in option, that may be your greenest and most economical, and that's what I would recommend. If you can't get to and from your work on the capacity of the battery alone, then the plug-in may not be the best option. It still may be, but you may want to consider, however, the battery electric vehicle, which will give you a little bit more range. But because you have a short commute overall, you'll likely be perfectly suited with the range of a larger full EV. Now, let's say you have a longer commute. Now you want to think about how much highway driving you actually are doing. If you have a lot of highway driving, believe it or not, the hybrid vehicle over long ranges may be more efficient overall than your battery electric vehicle based on the amount of energy used either in gasoline or kilowatt hours. So your hybrid may be your first choice, followed by your full EV. If you're in mostly stop and go traffic, then your battery electric vehicle may slightly outrank your hybrid option, and that may be your first choice. But both of these are probably going to be your best bet if you have a longer commute. So the rule of thumb when you're buying a new vehicle, or really anything, if you want to think about environmental considerations, is to not buy more car than you need, or not buy more battery than you need. Because if you can get by on a smaller battery or a smaller vehicle, that's going to be more economical and more green. No doubt about it. Here you can take a step back and look at the whole flow chart so it makes sense to you. This is how I like to think about decisions, so I know that I'm approaching things in a systematic way. I hope that this video was helpful. Thank you so much for your time. If content like this is something that you appreciate, please think about subscribing and check out other videos, and feel free to comment with new recommendations or ideas to help this channel grow and suit your needs. Thanks for checking out Saving Green. See you next time.